You're listening to Crossing Borders with ANYP for the Always Next Year Podcast Studio Network. You can find the team on our Twitter at ANYPodcast or visit us on our website, www.alwaysnextyearpodcast.com. And now, to bring us in, the Jackdaws.
A fighting man I used to be, revered and feared through Killarney. Now I'm back to hitching with the wind. But if Mickey Flynn should ever find me, I'll throw me caution all behind me and square off on that son of a bitch again. He cracked open a river too, he beat me Sunday through and through, and so jiggle my unconscious frame. I won me healthy sheriff fights, well lucky son still had me life since Mickey Flynn beat me dumb and lame.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to Crossing Borders. We are finally back. We have, disappeared off the face of the earth for the last 2 weeks. I've been moving into a new house. Then you kind of had the flu for a bit, and now you're going back to school and then busy with jobs. But now we're back, and we will also, excitedly I announce, we will have a part-time guest coming, part-time host, co-host, who will be on with me when Shane cannot be on, and that is Scott from TJ's One of Us. I have not done much work with him, so I could not tell you that much, but I have listened to some episodes of Shane and Scott working together, and I cannot wait to work with him. I cannot wait to work with Shane, as always, and I just love Crossing Borders, so I think it's a great show. And if you've never tuned in, well, welcome aboard, and where the hell have you been? Shane, how are you?
I'm good, man. I'm excited for you and Scott. I think you guys are going to have a really good dynamic on here. I think the people should be really excited for Scott joining this one as well. If you guys have not ever listened to Scott, I know, Connor, you haven't worked with him too much. I think you were on maybe one segment with him last year, I want to say, when he was actually just a guest of the pod, not an actual member. But he's super smart and super witty, and you guys will have some really good arguments and really good takes. I also have to say, I laugh as I sat here and told you that you need to be prepared in case my dog makes a particular noise entering in on this segment as I was feeding him pancakes prior to jumping on air, and your dog barks right before we start recording. So that was
I don't
perfect.
know what the hell happened there, but whatever. I guess, we're dog people. We're dog lovers, so
Oh yeah.
What can we say? It happens. You can't just tell them not to say what's on their mind, just as us, just like us.
That's exactly right.
So for those of you who may not have joined or may have forgotten what this show is about, Shane and I, and soon to be Scott, Shane and I, any combination, diplomatically debate Philadelphia sports. We pick Canada versus the United States. That would now be a 2-on-1, Connor versus Scott and Shane on our show. And
Scott's
we debate
in his own world. He's in LA. I feel like that's its own thing. It's just LA.
Yeah, I guess
that's just
California is California's like we have Quebec up here and they want to separate from us. California is like that in the States. I feel like they wish they were their own country.
Plate movements.
This is true. This is very true, although I can't imagine there'd be a whole lot of California left if that happens.
Probably not. So
I don't know
Scott,
much
be
about
safe.
I don't know much about plates and geography and geology, so I don't really know. I can't guarantee. But yeah, so we just debate the 4 hottest topics, or we just come up with 4 topics that we think will get a reaction out of each other. And we debate it, we argue it, and that is exactly what we are about to do as soon as I give you a quick corporate pitch here. If this is your first time listening, if this is your third or fourth time listening, make sure you rate and review the show. It helps us get better as people. It helps us get better as hosts and co-hosts. And hopefully if you give enough nice compliments, Shane will take some more time away from school and come back on Crossing Borders more frequently. So
I'll be on
please,
as often as I can.
So please rate and review the show wherever you listen to podcasts. We would appreciate it. We don't care if you give us 1 star and you tell us how shitty we are. good. We will learn from that and we will get better.
That
And
will be my debate point for that week if you give us a 1 for crossing borders. There are certain other segments here on ANYP, which I should not say this about, and I won't name segments, but there are certain other segments here that are deserving of a 1, and I would laugh at that, and I would say, this is probably accurate, but if you supply crossing borders with a 1, you're just wrong.
and if you give us 5 stars, you better justify the hell out of it because I don't think we're a 5-star show yet. So whatever
it's like
you
the
want
most
to do.
honest podcast we have.
So we got 4 great topics. We've had, 2 weeks to pull these together. So
Yep.
Shane, I'm gonna give you the pick of the lot. Do you want to talk Eagles, Phillies, Flyers, or Sixers?
You know what? Let's go with some Flyers hockey specifically because I'd like to start this early Saturday morning off with some positive notes here. So regardless of what you say and what I say, I'm pretty sure we're going to agree regardless.
Yeah, so for Flyers this week, we're talking who will be the Flyers MVP this year and where does the season end for us? Are we making the playoffs? How deep do we think we're going? What's realistic? We're not going to be homers. We're going to be realists. So I hope you came with a realistic expectation, Shane.
Yes,
Despite the 2-0 start, the Flyers do play in Western Canada tonight. They must have had the literally worst schedule as far as travel goes. They came back from Prague to Philly, and now they've gone to Western Canada to play, I believe it's the Canucks tonight. Is that right?
Yes,
Canucks,
tonight's Vancouver,
Royals.
then it's Calgary, and then it's Edmonton.
So we probably got stuck with the shittiest opening season travel
Not good.
schedule in the world. Yeah, I don't know how many miles that is, kilometers in Canada's world that they traveled, but I can only imagine it was a hell of a lot of miles. So we'll start out with you, Shane. Who is going to be the Flyers MVP this year and why? And what is a realistic expectation after this 2-0 start?
So it's a bit of a cop-out, but at the same time, if you're thinking any name other than the goaltender, Carter Hart, you're wrong. Carter Hart is 100% going to be this team's MVP if they want to reach the height that I believe that they can reach this year, which for me, and I'll get to this towards the back end of this response, I think they win a playoff series, and then I think that they are a very competitive matchup in a second round, but I don't think that they win that second round. This is year 1 of Alain Vigneault, Mike Yeo, and Michel Therrien. This is year 1 of the new look lines. This is first full year of Chuck Fletcher. Right now, I think a realistic expectation for that team is win 1 round and be a very competitive second round matchup. But getting back to the MVP of what the season's going to be, it is going to be Carter Hart. In order for this team to get there, goaltending is something that Philadelphia has strived for. The fan base has been craving for decades now. So to put into perspective for you, so our last 30-plus win season was 2013-2014 with Steve Mason, by a goaltender, that is. Steve Mason he's a polarizing goaltender here in Philadelphia. You either loved him or you hated him. There was like absolutely no middle ground with the man. He was fine, and that was probably one of his best years. But do you know when the last time the Philadelphia Flyers had a 35-win goaltender, which would have been a top 7 or 8 goaltender in hockey, which, again, 35 seems to be right at the back end of that, like, top 10 goaltenders in terms of win stats. Do you know when the last time that was?
I'm going to guess it's our dear friend Ron Hextall. It just feels realistic that it's not that far back.
Not quite that far back. It's one of my favorite goaltenders. It was in 2000, 2001, Roman Cechmanek.
Oh, that was my other guess. I was like, wait. There was one okay goalie between them. It was Roman Cechmanek, yeah.
That's nearly 2 decades of hockey without having a goaltender that you could arguably say was so impactful in the win category and in the starts category that you could pull away with nearly half a season's worth of wins right there, or half a schedule versus wins right there. Carter Hart, he's probably not going to play 65, 70 games. I think he'll probably play right around that 50, 55. And I think in those 50 to 55 games, you genuinely could see your next 30 to 35 game winner. And My biggest thing through it's just 2 games, but my biggest thing so far from that is the flurry of shots that he faced near the end of the game in Prague from Chicago. You need a goaltender to quote unquote kind of stand on their head for you and steal you a game. That's incredibly important, and he was able to do that. And then certainly his first career shutout in Philadelphia, which I was there and in the Wells Fargo Center for, and it was wonderful. That 5-on-3 kill. Obviously, the penalty kill looks incredibly revamped. It looks fantastic right now. I don't know how much they can keep that up. But the one thing beyond the skaters out there is the goaltender. And sometimes, especially on a nearly full 2-minute 5-on-3, you're going to need your goaltender to come up huge. And huge he came up. And it's going to be defining in-game moments like that is going to separate Carter Hart from the other incredible talent on the Philadelphia Flyers to make him this year's Philadelphia Flyers MVP. I'm thinking, like I said, somewhere in that 30 to 35 win range, 50 to 55 starts. I think he's going to have an incredible season. He's got a career save percentage of 917. I could see that getting into that like 930-ish range, like probably low 930s. He's got that 2.83 goals against average over, again, last year's 38 starts or however many starts he had. I could see that dipping under 2.5. He's an incredibly special talent, and Philadelphia is going to love this kid for a really long time.
Yeah, and that's really realistic to think because, I mean, we have waited for the future goalie for the Flyers since, Roman Chuck-Manick probably. We felt we had other ones, but, I mean, I wouldn't even go so far as say Steve Mason was one. So, I mean, as important as the goalie is to this team, I went a different route because I'm going with the goal scoring side of it. We are a team who has suffered from mediocrity for a few years now, due in large part to our goalie and our defense. We've addressed the goalie, but we've also underwhelmed very much so on the goal scoring side of the puck, I think. And as much as I want to agree that it be Carter Hart, I am going with Sean Couturier. He's at
new second line center.
Exactly. But he's at back-to-back 76-point seasons. He's only missed 2 games in those 2 seasons. And let's face it, last year was just a straight-up dog shit down season for the Flyers as a whole. And so to expect him to, in a down season, do better than his prior year is crazy. Because no one was scoring. The puck was not staying out of our zone. The puck was not staying out of the back of our net. So in all realism here, I'm gonna say that he comes out and he puts up more than a point a game. Of course, he has started the year a bit slower, so he's behind the pace. Yeah, he's behind the pace right now, but he started that way last year. Same as looking like James Van Riemsdyk. These players, they start slow. They got to get back into the game. And last season, Sean Couturier shot at a near 15% shot rate. If you're shooting at that net 15% of the time, you're getting goals, you're getting points, you're getting rebounds that could turn into goals and assists on Couturier's part. And he's around 11% early this year, and he's always hovered right around that 12% mark. So I expect that to come up as well. And with that, I easily expect another 35-ish goal season. His time on the ice was the highest of his career last year. I don't think it'll stay that high this year because we got smart coaches. So they're realistic that he's not going to play 22 minutes a game. But his time on ice is obviously going to stay high. He's vital in the faceoffs because his last year was the highest percentage of his career. He won 57% of faceoffs. And this year he's started out at a 65% clip. So if he can keep it that high, imagine all those faceoffs won in our zone, in the opponent's zone, how important those can be, whether it be on the power play, whether it be on the penalty kill, or whether it just be an even strength and keeping the puck in their zone or getting the puck out of our zone. And, of course, he's had this Selke robbed from him in back-to-back years. So, in all realism, like when we look at this guy, Sean Couturier is the best two-way player on the Flyers. And he is a top 5 two-way player in the entire league. He brings on the defensive side of the puck, the offensive side of the puck. He exemplifies a Philadelphia Flyer, the personality of the Philadelphia Flyers. He exemplifies what is a Philadelphia Flyer. He is gritty, no pun intended. He is tough. He is fun to watch. He's one of my favorite players, and let's please save him from being the next Claude Giroux. Let's not get to the point where we're sitting there 2 years from now when he's going on 30 and we're saying, wow, he was underrated. Wow, he was disrespected. No, we're stopping that. We're nipping that right in the butt right now. He is going to be the MVP of this team this season. We have the defense. We have the goalie now, and they're going to work together. Hopefully they're going to gel. They're going to do well. They're going to work together. The defense will help to make Carter Hart what he is going to be. And then on the other side of the puck, points who are going to start producing goals for us, because the only way we're getting out of mediocrity in a league where goal scoring is going up is to score on the other team. And as far as a realistic expectation, I think we end up getting that third seed in the Metro and we make it to the playoffs, obviously. But I mean, I don't expect much in the playoffs. I think it really depends on the matchup that we get tagged with in the first round. But I can see us getting to round 2 and losing there. But definitely, even if making the playoffs and putting up a good, tough round 1 series, that is a massive step forward than the last 5 years that we've had to watch and endure as Flyers fans.
So 2 things on that. And first of all, everyone knows how much I love Sean Couturier. My biggest reason why you can't pick him for MVP is for 2 years he has been with Claude Giroux for the most part, most of his shifts, correct? This year, he has Oscar Lindblom on one side and Travis Konechny. Now, Konechny looks like he is playing with his hair on fire. The kid looks great. The puck is finding him. He's not hitting posts this year early on, which is amazing compared to last year. So I don't necessarily have too much concern with Konechny, certainly not from the goal-scoring side or his own creativity with the puck. Oscar Lindblom, I am also a huge fan of, and I think that he's going to have a really special year, but neither of those players are Claude Giroux. Claude Giroux is playing with Hayes and Voracek now. So you're asking a lot out of a guy who was playing with one of the top 3 point getters in all of hockey for the last, nearly decade in Claude Giroux. You're removing that cog from his line, from Couturier's line. That's putting a lot on Lindblom and Konechny to be able to find Sean Couturier as well. I don't know that Sean Couturier is getting those 35 goals you're thinking now, not on this line. Now, again, this could change throughout the year, but as it stands right now, Sean Couturier, I could see his assists rise, but his goals are going to dip. I don't think right now, I think realistically a 60, 65 point season is what you're kind of in store for if the lines don't change. And if the progression is gradual from his two line mates right now. And then my second point, you said that they would get into the playoffs with about 90 points or a little over 90 points, which is hilarious because it's the exact same thing that I said on DOE 3 weeks ago. And Steve, rightly so, called me out on it. He said, what the hell team do you think is going to make the playoffs with 92 points? I went back and looked last year. He was correct. They got to get at least 96 points, I think, in efforts to be a real contender with any sort of favorable matchup. So you're a little light on points there if we're going off of last year's thing.
Well, I mean, at the same time, there are some teams, I mean, granted it's early, but there's some teams that are slowing down, and I don't know necessarily that the Metro division will necessarily involve getting that many points, because if you look at our division, there's a lot of teams that are kind of in the middle. They're not going to be that 90-point team. Like the Devils are not getting there. The Rangers are probably not getting there. The Penguins are starting to fall off. There's some teams that are, I think the Flyers can be like the new wave. And maybe it does take just a light 90 this year. But I mean, it is early, so it's tough to taper our expectations with that. But certainly, maybe we do need a few more than 90. But if we need a few more than 90, I'm not sure we get there. I know that's just like 3 more wins. But I mean, are we not asking a lot to get to the 90-point threshold alone?
Yeah, I mean, look, last year you're talking to a guy right now who predicted the Flyers to get 101 points. So obviously that was unrealistic. Last year I thought was the year that we had the most depth, both offensively and defensively. And certainly I think more so forward depth than defensive depth last year. But I'm going to double down on that this year. Not saying 101 points, but this is the deepest team I remember them having, both from an offensive and defensive standpoint.
Oh, I mean, when you got James Van Riemsdyk on your third line, you got to think, you're pretty deep. James Van Riemsdyk and Nolan Patrick, when he's healthy, will be the anchors on our third line. You got to think that's pretty deep because JVR was mixed between first, second lines in his past teams. So to have him down that low does not speak to his ability to play. I think it just speaks to our team is that deep. We're that deep. We have a lot of faith in Oscar Lindblom. We paid Travis Konechny. So JVR, unfortunately, takes a bit of a backseat to those guys. So I posted on Twitter to see what other people thought. And I think this is some early season hype syndrome, because 41% of people believe Travis Konechny will be the Flyers MVP this season.
Honestly, I'm not down on that thought. Like, I know I selected Carter Hart, but TK is he's a game-changing type of player. He may not come away with I don't want to say the most insane of stat. Like, he's not going to score 65 goals or 112 goals like he's projected to right now. Like, that's not going to happen, but he's a damn good hockey player. And if you're talking about game-changing elements, which is what an MVP essentially does for your team, he very well may be it. He may be the pulse of this team this year, but it's putting a lot on a young guy. So I wasn't willing to throw him there just yet. Oddly enough, willing to sit there and throw Carter Hart, the even younger and even less proven.
Yeah, I mean, let's say we just paid Konechny. He's young, but then Carter Hart, who's on his entry-level contract, is not young enough for Shane. He can take that pressure.
No, and neither one of them can grow facial hair, which drives me crazy.
Hey, well, they're getting there. Give it time. And Couturier, my boy, took 28%. Giroux, 17%, and 14% said other. And whoever said other, there was LJ, our own LJ Harrell, said Carter Hart. He has to be the best player to make the playoffs.
I can't believe LJ even knew what hockey was. Good for him.
At Gritty's Big Stand put a picture of a GIF of Carter Hart jumping. And then two people said
Elaine Vigneault.
Said Kevin Hayes. So okay. we have a few out there. We have some different ones. So this should be an interesting year for the Flyers. And I think we can, at the end of the season, when we revisit this, because this will be a topic at the end of the regular season, we will reopen this debate and say who was the MVP of this team. So look forward to that in, was it April, when the season ends? So
yeah, I mean, depending on how deep our cup run runs. What? Full disclosure, I now, for every single one of the segments that I'm on, which has got to be like 46 segments at this point, I now have a notebook for each one that's like dated with notes. So everyone's dead when they come into arguments with me. If any of you people say something stupid, I will remember it, I will note it down, and I will bring it back. So when we are in our cup run this year, I will go back and when I will sit here and be able to say it was not Sean Couturier, despite how much we love Selke Coots. It was Carter Hart. And we're going to bring it back.
And I can't wait because I'm going to remember this too. I don't need no notebooks to remember this.
Listen, man, I'm old and I'm all over the place. My schedule's insane. I need notebooks.
All right, so I'm picking next because I think we got to go with what's fresh in our minds. We all hate to talk about it, but damn it, we're going to talk about it. The Philadelphia Phillies.
Sure.
We just sat through a cringeworthy press conference yesterday. We heard of the firing of arguably a fan favorite, Gabe Kapler, and we finished a very disappointing.
I can't believe you just called him a fan favorite. He was one of the most polarizing people.
That's why I said arguably, because there's a lot. There's like a 50%. He's like Brett Brown. There's a heavy.
He's very polarized. Yeah.
There's a heavy stance of I like this guy, and there's a heavy stance on the other side of the border, no pun intended, that is like on the I hate him side and thank God he's fired side. So that's why I say arguably. I'm not saying he is. This is an arguable thing.
Mhm.
And we finished a subpar, extremely underwhelming 81-81 after spending over $500 million in the offseason to get the likes of Andrew McCutchen, David Robertson, and Bryce Harper. So, my question to you, Shane, that we are going to argue right now is what do the Phillies need to address this offseason to improve? And my God, it can't be much to at least improve on. But what's going to get us to the playoffs next year, do you think?
All right, so I've wrestled. This is the one that if you saw what my notebook looked like right now, it looked like that Charlie Day meme where he's sitting here trying to explain anything, and he looks up at a whiteboard and he points, and there's just chaos surrounded. So my notes had originally started, all right, well, we obviously need starting pitching. And then I was like, well, no, we need to buy an entire bullpen. Shit, we also need a third baseman. I don't know what's going on with the middle infield. Is Gene Segura coming back? Is he shifting to second base? What's going on with Rhys Hoskins? We need a manager now. And then it all dawned on me as I sat here and pieced together all these different things. And I was like, you know what? I think the one thing we need to address is the front office. It's the one thing right now that is remaining safe throughout a deliberation process that left 11 days.
This is
uncertainty.
Extremely fair. I think like this must have really dawned on you yesterday after that press conference, because I sat there and I cringed when I read about the quotes. I didn't watch it. I read the quotes afterwards and I was like, oh boys. Oh,
it's not good.
Do they even know what they got themselves into this offseason?
I don't think the Phillies have a PR team that helped these guys. And actually, if they do have a PR team, I think that all three of them are so damn arrogant that I don't think they would have listened anyway. If someone would have been like, let's prepare you.
You know what? They're honestly reminiscent of Donald Trump's Twitter account.
That's a hell of a take, and you should put that on Twitter immediately.
Like that. That's just I don't know if I want to, because like in the States as compared to Canada, you have only 2 political parties. We have like 10. The 4 major ones, but like 10 that we can all vote for. But I don't want to be that guy who, ruins the ANY podcast network because I argued that the Phillies front office is like Donald Trump's Twitter. And then like all the Trump lovers just stop following us.
Whatever. Look, if you can't take a joke, a very accurate one at that, I don't want you on our Twitter anyway.
So continue on. Well, continue.
So yeah. So again, I sat here and I pieced through it, and I looked at all of the major holes, and we need, arguably, if you're going to form a 25, 26-man roster next year, you could be looking at as many as 15 additions needed. It's insane. Like when you take a look at the possible subtractions, like we're probably not going to pay Cesar Hernandez's arbitration, which is nearly $12 million. Michael Franco, another one, probably not paying him his $8.5 million arbitration. What's going to happen with Segura? Is Rhys Hoskins going to be on the move? He shouldn't be, but is he? What's going on with Andrew Knapp? The entire pitching rotation, not named Aaron Nola. That's bullpen included. You could throw Hector Neris in there as well. He's good. And I sat there and I was like, man, this is a team that has been constructed by Matt Klentak, Andy McPhail, and John Middleton. And they've had 4 years. And this is the product that they've churned out, and we're no closer today than what we arguably could have been 4 years ago at this time. Now, I will say they've had their hands full with taking over from the Ruben Amaro regime. And it's one thing that Middleton did say in the presser yesterday was that when he got here, there was absolutely no analytics department to speak of because the Phillies were that drastically behind the curve. And that is true. They have implemented a lot of analytical knowledge. And that's a good direction to go in, but I don't think they know how to use the information. And I don't think that they know how to build a team to fit the information that they're finding. And I don't think that the information that they find fits the current talent that they have. Like there's a lot of things wrong. And it feels like those 3 minds in particular are going in 3 separate directions. Now, Middleton is the overly involved owner that we fear in all of sports right now. He's a guy who we all praised for going down and solidifying the Harper contract and saying, you know what, we're getting the guy. I'm gonna fly there. I'm gonna get him, and he did, and that's a good thing. But that's kind of where it needs to stop. He now look.
He's like Jerry Jones almost. I hate to bring Jerry Jones's name into a debate
No, I think that's
about
solid.
Phillies sports, but like Jerry Jones is too involved in his team. He's too in bed with Garrett and Jason Garrett, yeah, and he's just you gotta eventually have to just decide I got the right people in place. And it's clearly the point where Middleton doesn't believe he has the right people in place. So if you believe that, you change that.
So that's the thing. He's the driving force that goes and gets Harper. Okay. He wanted Malley gone. Klentak did not. He went above Klentak. He said, well, I'm firing him anyway. We're going to swing Charlie in there. Obviously, the Gabe thing. There are reports coming out that, and he kind of echoed it yesterday without saying it, but that he essentially wanted Gabe gone as early as July this season. And McPhail, and he actually went to Pat Gillick as well, had said, listen, we don't recommend firing a manager mid-season. Like, it's just not something that we've believed in throughout our tenures in professional baseball. So we opted not to. He would have. He absolutely would have. Then he makes the decision anyway, which is clearly against Klentak, and you saw how uncomfortable Matt Klentak was up there. And then in a very awkward, Matt Klentak's going to lead the charge for the next manager. I'm sorry, there's too much dysfunction in this front office right now. Obviously, the trust is gone with Matt Klentak. The involvement is entirely too high with John Middleton. Strangely enough, the guy who we all hated the most in Andy McPhail probably looked and sounded the best yesterday in that press conference, which again is not hard to do when the other two people spoke yesterday. But it just leaves a lot to be desired. So Connor, you could sit over there and you could say, let's address, the third base position. Let's address the starting staff of the bullpen, whatever it is. I'm saying, who wants to come to a house of dysfunction? It's unhealthy. It's off. No matter what we do in free agency, we will now dramatically have to overpay, because why would someone want to come where we don't know who's going to manage this team. We don't know who's going to be the bench coach, hitting coach, the pitching coach. We don't know if Matt Klentak's going to be here next year or not. So the vision that he pitches you may very well not be the vision at all. John Middleton may come in here and just say, I don't like this guy anymore. I'm going to fucking trade him mid-season as a owner CEO, as he called himself. There's too much dysfunction there, and there are too many problems, and they're going in three different directions, and it's completely evident. To me, that is your biggest issue. If you want to get back into postseason contention and bring that fucking trophy back, as John Middleton came out and said last year, you're going to have to set your pride aside and say, I have to employ people that I trust as John Middleton. And if it's not Matt Klentak, I'm sorry, you eat the 3-year extension that you just signed, each of those two, you get rid of them, and you find better baseball minds to fit the vision that he's claiming he wants, and then back the fuck off. Just sit there and let them work. So there is too much dysfunction for me to go anywhere other than the front office of the Philadelphia Phillies. Well,
God damn it, I'm going to argue something different than you, and I'm doing it right now. So I say, you know what? We were a lot of bad, freakish luck away from flipping that 81-81 to over 90 wins and potentially a playoff contender. We were a playoff contender for pretty much up until the last week of the season, and we all sat there and scratched our heads and said, how are we here? Because the team is almost there. The dysfunction of the front office is whatever. If you're coming to Philadelphia, expect dysfunction. You should damn well know that now. We have been a dysfunctional sports town, rebuilding teams, trying to build contenders. We thought we had contenders. They didn't win it. Then we came in with underdogs and we won it. You know what? This city is full of dysfunction, and damn it, we're proud of it. But I'm going to argue that we need starting pitching, because that was the biggest clear need throughout the season. And I think that because you look at the players, Andrew McCutchen was doing great. We had our injured list was like 10 people long for the entirety of the season, with some freakish bad luck. One of the healthiest, most durable bullpen pitchers in Robertson got a season-ending injury. Andrew McCutchen, who is one of the healthiest players that we know, since I started watching baseball. Got a season-ending injury. Gene Segura was on and off the IR. Our injury list was just full, loaded the whole season, and it was just full of just bad luck. And we could never string together more than a couple wins based on this starting pitching group. John Middleton said he's willing to enter the luxury tax. So Middleton.
Whoa. No.
Whoa.
You didn't watch the whole presser yesterday, right?
No, but I saw the comment. He's willing
and
to
out
if
of context.
it makes him a contender.
Yeah, he doesn't want to
he
hit
doesn't
that luxury
want
tax
to.
whatsoever.
Nobody wants to. But I mean,
sure they do. If they have to, they have to.
But nobody wants to. I mean, but look at the Yankees. Look at some of the teams who have touched the luxury tax. The Yankees are there. The Yankees had injuries. They had worse luck than us, and they're in the second round of the playoffs right now, playing the Houston Astros for a chance at the World Series. So something went right in spending a shitload of money there. So Middleton has to enter the luxury tax. So whatever. If I read that out of context or it's out of context, Middleton, you have to enter the luxury tax. This isn't about willing to or would. You have to. Because Pivetta did not break out. Vince Velasquez is garbage, cannot be used in the bullpen, cannot be used as a starter. Arrieta is old, he's inconsistent, he's injured, and he's going to rob us of $20 million this year when he clearly accepts that player option because he ain't getting paid anywhere else. And the game has become way more difficult for contact pitchers like Jake Arrieta. We need a guy with stuff. We need a Garrett Cole. A guy who picks apart a strike zone and walks off that mound with 10 plus strikeouts almost every night. Eflin lacked consistency. So we have Nola. We have 5 starting positions, and we have one of them essentially locked in and filled. I have no issues with Pivetta or Eflin as the 5 and rarely see in action, but they are not the 2 and the 3 pitchers, and Arrieta is not the 2 or the 3 pitcher at all either. We had a 4.9 ERA, which was above the league average of 4.83. We were 49 and 52 in games started by our starting pitchers. So the starting pitcher, when factoring into the decision, we were 49 and 52. The best teams in this league had win totals in the 60s and the 70s with their starting pitchers. The league average for games turned over and lost was 14. Many key stats, we were league average or worse. This isn't going to win games. You can go out there and you can average 5 runs a game, but if you're giving up 5 runs a game, your offense is going to have a hell of a time. So when you go and you look at the free agents this year, there's Cole Hamels, there's Dallas Keuchel, who I personally believe we probably should have made somewhat of an attempt at during the season. There's Garrett Cole, there's Madison Bumgarner, Alex Wood, Zach Wheeler. Are we going to get them all? No. But I say you have to go out and you have to get 2 of them. And you know what? One of them, and I've seen the point argued, one of them can be Cole Hamels on a nice team-friendly 1-year contract. You bring him back, he'd be your 3rd starter. That's okay, or your 4th starter. That's okay. But you need to get a Garrett Cole or a Madison Bumgarner. And obviously the dream is Garrett Cole, whose current market value is over $30 million a year. So you're damn it, Middleton, you're entering the luxury tax if you want a good ace pitcher who's going to strike people out. And if you have Aaron Nola, like if you think about having like the likes of, and we have some good youth that could potentially come up, but we saw what leaning on breakouts can do. It's not pretty. But, I mean, you can look and you can go, if you have Aaron Nola and you have Garrett Cole, Aaron Nola, Cole Hamels, Jake Arrieta, Nick Pivetta, some sort of combination of that, I'm feeling a lot more confident than I was with that pitching staff last year. But it definitely involves entering the luxury tax. And
so you agree. It's the front office. It's not starting pitching. Like,
it is a starting pitching because Middleton will do it, and Middleton is going to have to do it because our salary cap is not good. Our salary cap situation is not good, and it's not going to get any better. We got up
in 2 years. First of all, if you don't tender, any type of a contract, is some of these arbitration people this year, mainly the 2 that I mentioned already, fine. You lose half your bullpen off the salary this offseason and next offseason. Our cap situation, honestly, is going to be fine in 2 years. Like Arrieta's gone 2 years. It's not as bad as I think people think. This year,
but it's because this year is a year that you have to make these moves. So
sure,
it makes
but you can
the
hit
cap
the salary
situation
cap.
look bad. Yeah, exactly. You can hit it, but like the situation looks bad for this year. But then you finally get Arrieta, Bone Spur Arrieta off the books. Like half of our bullpen's free agents this season if we don't choose to re-sign them. So there's a lot of people who very well could be going, but the spending needs to start this year.
Well, if there's anything that we have learned from some of his interviews throughout this year, certainly from the press conference last year, it's that John Middleton is very much in the know of how his clientele perceives his business. I'm quoting, if you can't tell, like in the air, like an asshole, as if I'm on camera right now. But he's going to know if we're sitting here saying, like, last year he knew we wanted Harper, we didn't want Machado, or given our druthers, we would want Harper over Machado. Matt Klentak wanted Machado. He didn't let him go for Machado. It exceeded our valuation, which really meant John Middleton said, F you, I want Bryce because the people want Bryce. This year, we all want Garrett Cole, 314 strikeouts in the AL, most since Nolan Ryan, which is insane. Of course, we all want Garrett Cole. We all want Anthony Rendon, current postseason hero. The guy's insane on a career year. He's going to do anything and everything in his power to listen to the people right now. The problem is, if you specifically only listen to your clientele, why are we not all cashing in on checks right now? You go do your fucking due diligence. You sit there and talk with your baseball people, figure out what makes the most sense for your decision. We may very well end up in a 3-4 year contract with a 35, 36-year-old Cole Hamels because it's what the people want, as opposed to going for a Zach Wheeler.
That's not what the people want. You want a 1 or a 2 year with Cole Hamels. You cannot fall into this, what we did with Jake Arrieta, forking out a boatload of money for a few years. But God damn it. Can we dream, Shane? Can we just be logical? It seems like the rest of the Philly sports are becoming logical just when the team that has one of the best looking offenses on paper is choosing to go the illogical route. Because on paper, you would sit there and you would say, wow, that is a good offense. And that is what we all overreacted to at the start of the season. Was, wow, look at that offense, and just ignored the holes, which was starting pitching, relief pitching. Granted, relief pitching, we did lose about half our bullpen as the season went on to injuries. And you could argue that front office issues.
You could argue that the biggest fault because they did attack the bullpen with over the last 2 years with pieces that, honestly, the bullpen should have been a strength until those injuries happened. The biggest fault here is you banked on 4 question marks in your starting rotation, and you banked on Maikel Franco, and you traded your shortstop-ish of the future in J.P. Crawford for a guy who can hang at shortstop for 1 season and not play well. Those are a ton of decisions made by one group, front office. That's who fucked everything up this season. That, to me, is what to blame. That, to me, is what to fix. The Braves have been eliminated. We keep hearing Chaim Bloom's name thrown around all over the place. The Braves it was a Johnny Heller tweet. The Rays, entered the postseason with a payroll that was, I think, $1 million or $2 million more than like 4 of our bullpen acquisitions over the last 2 seasons, who had pitched a combined like 14 games or something ridiculous, like Pat Neshek, Tommy Hunter, David Robertson, and there was somebody else in there. I think
that the bullpen, the issue with the bullpen is reminiscent of back when the Eagles were cycling through cornerbacks. Back when we thought we had the dream team with Rogers, Camardi, and Asamoah. It feels kind of like that.
You don't want to throw Vince Young in there? the leader and bus driver of the Dream Team comment. Vince Young was fantastic, man. Hook 'em horns forever.
But
River rivalry today.
It feels reminiscent of that. Just the way that we invested, they continue to invest in that position, and just none of it is working out.
Yeah, I think that's all across baseball. It's just about fine. It's so hard to predict these guys. That one, I agree.
At this point in the MLB, it's about locking down good starting pitchers, good swing and miss starting pitchers, and it shows in the way that the Nationals are where they are with Patrick Corbin, Steven Strasburg, where the Houston Astros are at with Justin Verlander, Garrett Cole, where the Dodgers looked like they were going, but did not get. Like a lot of those teams, what do they all have in common? They do have an offense that could arguably look similar to ours. A great
front office with very smart people. That's what they have in common.
They also have the starting pitchers. If they can put out some starting pitchers, some quality starting pitchers with some hit and miss stuff, we're not even talking about the front office right now. But they haven't been able to put together starting pitchers. Well, damn it, Shane, you keep talking. When they put starting pitchers out there next year, and it's the same front office, write this in your damn notebook.
In the notebook.
When they put starting pitchers out there next year, and it was put out there by this front office that is going nowheres no matter what Shane Mead says, I will tell you I was right when we're a 90-win team next year with starting pitchers. And if they don't go out and address the starting pitching position, well, then I didn't say anything. So next up, let's move
before
on.
you hit your next topic, I have a side tangent point here. It's a very, very quick answer. Specifically because I brought up Vince Young, and today is one of the most important days in all of sports for me. Red River Shootout, or Red River Rivalry, whatever you guys want to call it anymore. Texas or Oklahoma? Who would you go with?
I think I'm going Oklahoma.
I hate you so much. All right, pick your next damn topic. Unbelievable. I would too, and a smart person would, but I'm a huge Texas fan, so it's a real problem for me.
I want to hit on this Ben Simmons topic because I know that we're on opposite sides of the boat for this one and his Ben Simmons handling of the media. So for those of you who may not have heard Ben Simmons I think it was last week, Ben Simmons was asked by a reporter.
There was nothing to hear. Go ahead.
Ben Simmons was asked by a reporter, have you been getting any 3-point looks in practice, and are you satisfied with your opportunities to take them? In response, he had a very brief and standoffish, yeah, I've had shots comment. And later on, he also went so far as to say, he added, I've played basketball. Come on, man, that's a dumb question. So we stand on opposite sides here. I stand on the side of the media, and you stand on the side of Ben Simmons. As we know, media is a crucial part, as much as we don't want it to be. It is a crucial part of sports and how we stay connected with teams and how we stay connected with the athletes. So it's not going anyways. There are some really dumb ones, and in Philadelphia, damn it, do we ever know there are some really stupid members of the media, but they're there and they're not going anywheres. So let's address this. Why do you think Ben Simmons was in the right to be standoffish and to make that comment?
He wasn't overly standoffish. And here's the thing. Obviously, you always want any human to be like the bigger person. But there's a reason, and we'll take it back to, and we've mentioned how, what I'm going to school for and everything. So we'll use a legal type of term here, but like badgering the witness is something that it doesn't make the witness look incorrect or out of place. It makes the person
for good
asking.
Television.
Sure, it makes for good television, and probably more so here in America because we're all assholes versus Canada, where you people all seem to be like the sweetest humans on the planet. But you mentioned something in there about dumb media people. Here's my issue. And not all athletes are brilliant, not all athletes are smart, but almost every athlete has gone through some sort of PR training, and they understand how to answer questions and how to respond. They understand their city. They understand the expectations from those interviews. That's why, for the most part, you get really politically just dull responses from people. Now, when you get badgered in the way that Ben Simmons has been just completely enamored by 3-point questions, why are we focusing on the one fucking thing this guy cannot do on a basketball court exceptionally well? He is not taking questions on his improved free throw percentage from last year. He's not taking questions on his overall offseason and what he did to mentally and physically prepare himself for this season. He's not taking any type of questions, for the most part anyway, about the newly acquired Al Horford, or, obviously they went with Tobias Harris in large part because it's what Ben Simmons would want. It brings out the best version of Ben Simmons as opposed to what Jimmy Butler would be able to bring out over the duration of the contracts that each of those players were awarded. He's not answering those questions. Is not getting badgered by those types of things. It's, let me just keep picking at it and picking at it and picking at it. And what happens when you do? I'll tell you a story real quick. This is a perfect example. So my mother, and I love her, but she's a problem when she drinks, which is a lot. And young Shane's mom went on vacation in Hawaii. She stayed at a resort, and a gentleman would get into the elevator almost the same time every single day as her. And my mother, on vacation, you drink, and she sits there and she just keeps putting her hands in his face and just making weird noises and just making weird noises. And the guy keeps sitting there just calmly, just kind of shoving her away like, all right, come on, behave. And finally, after 6 days of this, when she does it again, he punches her in the face. Now, you shouldn't hit women, but if ever there was a time, that's kind of it. And that's the same thing. Ben Simmons didn't even punch this guy in the face. All he did was sit there and say, come on, man, ask a more educated question. That's essentially what he said. What's wrong with that?
Do you really want one of our players to punch a media member in the face? The way the media is protected at this point.
No, but you have to be able to protect yourself in those situations. And if you sit there and you continue to get enamored by that question over and over and over and over again, you have to be able to sit there. And first of all, if Ben Simmons does metaphorically punch the media in the face and sit there and, I don't want to say attack. I'm not saying go all Allen Iverson, and Ricky Waters for who for what net out there. I'm not saying to create this massive story out of something, but they need to be put into their place too. They need to be held to standards and expectations, just as they're attempting to hold Ben Simmons to standards and expectations. That media, that whoever the hell sat there and asked those 3 questions, that's that jerk off kid in a high school classroom who's just, he knows he's getting underneath the teacher's skin and he's just putting that finger right in, I'm not touching you until he gets his ass thrown out of class. That kid or guy, whomever it was, should never be welcomed back. That is the fucking issue. That villainizes Ben Simmons for a reason that should never fucking happen.
And you know what? Damn it. That do we expect anything different from the media? That is, it's not part of my argument, but do we expect the fact that for countless years, I'm sure you've watched sports and I've watched sports. Have you ever expected the media to be held to any higher of a standard? This is how they are. We have magazines out there that live off of just gossip, pure gossip. So obviously that's going to translate over into sports as well, that they're going to worry about, they're going to be enamored by the same thing over and over and over again. And this is what we have come to expect from the media. And there are different ways to handle these situations with the media. Sitting there and saying something is a dumb question is not the way you handle the media. It may be the way Donald Trump handles the media, but even
That's
Donald...
a second Trump reference.
It is a second Trump reference because even Trump will not address that face-to-face. Well, he probably would, but he generally takes it to Twitter. So there are alternate methods of doing it without having the face-to-face confrontation with that media member right then and there. It's part of what you sign up for. It's in your contract to have media time. Is there a more than should be media time? Probably, because I read also in that week that there was 4 different media appearances, 5 minutes each. So he stood in front of the media for 20 minutes. At that point, the amount of questions asked, the quality of questions asked, the types of questions asked, it becomes very different because you've sat there for 20 minutes and had face-to-face time with, let's say, 3 questions a minute with this guy. So you've asked, at some point, the quality of the question kind of becomes really shitty. And I think that's kind of what came up in this situation. But
then fix your questions. If you have nothing else to ask, move the hell on.
But they're taking advantage of the media availability. So maybe the NBA has to make less accessible media availability. Maybe after every practice in a week, don't have a media availability. Give them an optional one and give them ones where it's mandatory. Don't make them constantly have to do that. I mean, I'm going to look back at the Bill Belichick when he was asked. He said he was asked one time about AB a while back in a presser. He said, I'm not addressing Antonio Brown at this time. And it was about if he was going to play that 1 week that he was a Patriot. And they asked 3 more times. He said, no comment, no comment, no comment. And finally, someone started to ask about AB. He got up and he walked away. You can justify that. That can happen. That is a good response by Bill Belichick, although Bill Belichick is a king.
Hold on. You can't say that. Now, I agree. You should be able to sit there and say, and sure, Ben Simmons could say, listen, I'm not going to just address this type of question. But he didn't fucking walk away and just exit a press conference. He didn't sit there and give a warning like Bryce Harper did as a national, where he said, if you sit there and ask this question, I'm going to walk right out that door. He didn't. He stood there and he took the remainder of questions. Bill Belichick walked the fuck away.
Yeah, but
50 other reporters didn't get to ask their actually good questions.
That's part of being the media available. But that's just an example. You know what? At the end of the day, say no comment. Say no comment. Say no comment. Stand there and say no comment. Don't be standoffish. And if the media wants to create something of nothing, which they have with this, what would the difference have been if he just said no comment, no comment, no comment? The same story would just have evolved from this. Simmons is young, he's immature, and these are the types of situations where he's going to learn from it, in my opinion. He just has to get over himself.
You think Ben Simmons is immature?
Well, it shows in this presser. I'm saying that. You say no comment. Look at what he said. That's a dumb question. That's something that I used to hear in high school. That's dumb. That's a stupid comment. That's a dumb comment. That's high school stuff right there. But that's high school stuff. You say no comment. Don't sit there and just say that's a dumb question.
Doug Peterson has said that's not a great question. Bill Belichick, you've mentioned that.
That's a good way to do it. That's not a great question. That's an unnecessary question. No comment. That's not a good question. Can we move on?
He didn't walk out there an 18-year-old, that's a clown question, bro. Bryce Harper, Bryce Harper evolved in his responses, but at a certain fucking point.
You know what? Yes. Simmons might as well have said that's a dumb question, bro, because the fact that he said he used the word dumb, he might as well have added whatever type of vernacular he wanted to add to the rest of that statement in my eyes, because it just showed immaturity. People are making a big deal about the shot because what separates him from being like the next LeBron James or the next true stud top player in the NBA is a goddamn shot. So we are enamored by that. Fans are enamored by that. So the media is enamored by that. And the media is going to address that week in and week out. And you damn well bet that he got praised when he hit that 3-pointer. And he didn't go and say, oh, it's just a 3-pointer. That's just nothing to talk about. That's a dumb comment to bring up. No. So why in this situation is he going to say that's a dumb question?
Here's if you're that media representative right now and you want to ask Ben Simmons about his 3-point jump shot, right? You're a member of the Philadelphia media and you cover the Philadelphia 76ers, and you go and you ask a guy who everyone fucking knows he has not hit a 3 in his professional career, and that his attempts are few and far between, but they have been attempts. I'm sorry, but when you sit there and you ask a professional athlete who has been bombarded with these questions, Ben, have you ever taken a 3-point shot? And he goes, are you serious right now? Like, yes, you cover me. You cover this team. You've written an article about the fact that I took 2 3-point shots in whatever week it was last year. You know that I have. You also know damn well that I haven't made one. So what's your fucking point? Why ask the goddamn question?
Could the question potentially been worded better? Probably. But we know the media just thinks right on the spot. Sometimes they follow up with a question that was asked and they kind of add elements.
No, I think that was premeditated stupidity.
They add elements of both. But at the end of the day, the media is part of being an athlete. It's part of your contract. It's part of what's going to happen, and it's going to continue to happen. And is there going to be people in the media who ask stupid questions? You're damn right. And it'll happen when me and you are dead and gone. The media will be asking stupid questions to sports athletes, to everybody. It's going to happen. It's going to keep happening, and it's all about how you address it. And Ben Simmons just needs to get over himself. We are enamored by his inability to hit shots. So the media is going to hit on that. The media is going to attack that point. And you see it after any game. Nelson Aguilar had to address questions about his drops after he dropped the ball. And he didn't sit there and say, that's a stupid question. I'm a wide receiver. I catch balls. That's what I do. He did not. It is what it is.
They ask good questions.
Yeah.
There's a difference. I'm sorry. You can't. If you were a
but
good
that's
media,
but that's the
so
thing.
Let me say this.
Was there better questions? How do you know? It never came up because Nelson Aguilar did not overreact to being addressed on dropping the ball.
Ben Simmons didn't overreact at all.
He didn't
overreact at all.
Because Ben Simmons overreacted, and I could never imagine Ben Simmons actually overreacting and what he would sound like overreacting because he's so how he is. That's why that comment, that's a dumb question comment, is exactly how I expected him to react to that type of question instead of taking a more professional approach.
Oh God, this is exhausting.
And you're damn right, and I will exhaust you. Keep that. You better write that in your notebook.
This one doesn't even need to be in the notebook. You're wrong. People are going to sit here and they're going to listen to this and they're going to be like, how the hell is this kid defending the dumbest reporter in the history of reporters? Or at least the ones that we're going to talk about. I just sit there and take Howard Eskin, for example, in the Philadelphia Phillies press conference yesterday. A lot's being made out of the question that he asked. Now, John Middleton lost his shit when Howard Eskin, very first question asked, literally goes up there. And I don't know if you saw this quote yet. Did you?
I remember scrolling through it on Twitter, but I can't remember exactly.
So, like I said, Howard Eskin, and we give him a lot of shit on this show. People give him a lot of shit all over the place. But the questions he asks are good a lot of the times. They're difficult questions to answer, but he phrases them in a way that's respectful enough. Now, Howard Eskin yesterday literally asked John Middleton, why in the hell is Matt Klentak to your right and Andy McPhail to your left when seemingly you're the one running the ship anyway? Why are these two people still here? If you're the one making these decisions and you're the final vote on all of these things, why are you continuing to put baseball people in place that you do not trust? Now, he phrased that in a professional enough way. That wasn't the exact quote. Obviously, I'm paraphrasing and just whatever, but that was the gist of that quote. Middleton lost his shit. That's on Middleton. That was embarrassing. Howard asked a question that was very relevant. Now, had Howard sat there and basically said this instead, you know that you don't trust Matt Klentak at all. He's done absolutely nothing for you, and people hate Andy McPhail. Why are they here if you're so enamored by what your clientele thinks and what your vision is and how it's different from Matt Klentak? Okay, then John Middleton can lose his shit on you if he wants to. No, he asked a good question in a respectful way. He didn't sit there and say, Ben Simmons, I've been covering you for your entire professional career, and have you ever hit a three? Are you fucking dumb?
The question was not worded exactly that way.
Yes, it was.
It was not.
Have you hit a three in your professional career? Was the question. And he's like, no, I haven't, but I'm a but I'm an all-star. So there's that. And then he asked, have you ever taken a three in the game was the first one. And he goes, yes. Yes. And a slight eye roll. I'd have done the same damn thing. I'd have been like, next fucking question, dummy.
It would be even better if he was just short with the situation versus making the comment. It's just unnecessary. Just be short. If you want to be short with the media. It'll get you out of media's eyes a lot quicker that way too.
He's never getting out of the media's eyes. He's Ben Simmons. It's never going to happen. He's going to have 50 million cameras in front of him for the rest of his life.
Well, we hit on only 3 topics in about an hour. So now we'll go real quick here. Give me a 30 seconds of So the Jalen Ramsey price seems to be getting unreasonable and unsustainable for a team's future. So this is the Philadelphia Eagles. Who would be your alternative 30-second crash course? Who do you want as the alternative to Jalen Ramsey at the cornerback position? Quick response. Rapid fire.
Rapid fire in it. All right. I think for a realistic purpose and like just a cheap option in terms of what it would cost in a trade, probably could get him for like a 5th rounder or something like that, maybe a conditional pick of sorts. Would be Quentin Dunbar. He's grading out right now as I think the 41st best cornerback on PFF throughout the early parts of this season. It always sucks trading in division, obviously with the Redskins there. But at a certain point, he's only owed $4 million or $4.5 million next year, something like that. He's a relatively cheap in salary cap option, and he's a cheap in terms of trade cost option for you. And I just think for an effective depth corner that is accustomed to playing the outside, that's the easiest way to go for me.
Well, I'm taking A-Man, not a depth corner. I got the alternative is Chris Harris Jr.
He's a slot corner, though.
But we know how he can cover, though. I mean, he at the end of the day, he's starting. He should be out there over a lot of other guys on our team. And I mean, based on his age, yes, he's in a contract year where he's making $12.5 million. He's the 11th highest paid cornerback, but he's ranked in the top 10 the last 2 seasons. So might he be due for a bit more potentially, but it can be on a shorter term contract. And I think in an extremely young cornerback room, a couple years of Chris Harris Jr. would be really good veteran leadership for this team.
Do you think he could play the outside again? Like when Cravon LeBlanc comes back? Because Cravon, he was actually a really good slot corner for us last year.
I think we could give it a try. I mean, I don't think Chris Harris Jr. would cost you a first at this point based on his age and based on being in a contract year. I think you can get away with maybe a 3rd or 4th. Probably a 3rd. They might try and push for a 2nd, but we know how he's going to get it done for a 3rd. But I think he could. I mean, he's playing at 99% of snaps this season. He's played over 90% of snaps most seasons. He's top 15 in passer rating allowed and snap share, top 10 in targets allowed, target rate, yards allowed, touchdowns allowed. So he is a top 10 cornerback, and he can probably be moved around, especially with McLeod and Jenkins as safeties to back him up. So I think he could make the move out, and he could definitely provide a lot more than some other cornerbacks who are struggling at this point, Ronald Darby and Sidney Jones. But at the end of the day, we need to address the situation, and how he wants to address it is up to him. But the Jalen Ramsey price is extremely unreasonable, especially considering you're going to end up tagging on a $20 million price tag over 5+ years. That just screams something could go wrong, giving up 2 firsts and then feeding a massive contract like that. So as much as we want Jalen Ramsey, it seems completely unrealistic at this point for the Eagles.
Yeah, I agree. Look, we'd all love Jalen, but I think that Jacksonville's delusional. Like the rest of the NFL knows that they honestly need to trade him. So
yeah,
like
he wants out. They're holding on to him, and it's literally going to get, if it gets to next year, they've taken the option, which is fine, but he could hold out. This could be like a Le'Veon Bell situation all over again, and then he walks.
No, Le'Veon was salaried.
But if he doesn't want to play for the team, if he gets franchise tagged and then he doesn't want to sign the franchise tag, then look at that. Then you're sitting on a player who you're going to lose for literally no value. Because if a team sees you infighting like that, they're not going to offer you 2 firsts. They're going to say, well, we'll offer you a 2nd now. And if they say no, then they'll be like, fine, we'll go and get him on the open market next season. So
that's what I mean. I don't know
what the Jags are in a real bind where they just have to make the move, man. They've been offered 2 firsts, they turned it down. They've been offered a 1st, a 2nd, and Hayden Hurst, and they're in dire need of a tight end. And at the end of the day, they've literally rejected all of them, and it makes 0 sense. You're not getting more than 2 firsts. You're not getting more than a 1st and a player of need. Like, they have to just be smart.
Yeah, they're just standing on a point of pride and principle right now, and I also think too they and rightly so. It's fun to sit there and buy into the hype of young players, and they're buying into the hype of Gardner Minshew. And I think that if they can play decent enough competitive football with a Gardner Minshew there, despite Foles' unfortunate collarbone injury, I think that they're going to try to use that to sell Jalen Ramsey and say, listen, we're going to pay you, and we have a quarterback that we believe in. We're not that far away.
I just think he wants out. I don't think it matters.
So do I.
You can sit there and say we're winning a Super Bowl in the next 5 years, and he'll sit there and say I still want out. They're at like a stalemate. He doesn't like Doug Marrone. He's not a fan of the front office. So I think it's just at a point.
Oh, disrespected him how many times now? It's absurd.
It's too combustible there. So, but Minshew mania seems to be a very real thing, and I feel so bad for Nick Foles. But at the same time, I feel damn good for his pockets because he's a $20 million backup quarterback now. So good for Nick Foles.
Lynn's sanity came down from his 4-5 game high as well in what was that 2011? I want to say something like that.
This is very true. So I mean, I'm not full on the Minshew mania.
We'll see how it goes. So. But he is exciting.
I guess 10-second guarantee of the week, and we'll wrap it up because damn, we got to do shows more often. So we will be back to doing a weekly show, and I'll be with Shane or I'll be with Scott, but we will be weekly, and we will try our darndest to get down to around 45 minutes going forward. But I mean, we haven't gotten to talk in like 3 weeks, so damn.
Yeah, it's been crazy.
So guarantee of the week for Philly sports.
All right, my guarantee of the week is that by the end of this Western Canada trip, Samuel Morin will have taken over the sixth defenseman role from Robert Haig. Not to say that Haig has played poorly by any stretch. I just think that there's nothing sexy about him, and I know that you don't really need anything sexy about a sixth defenseman who is effectively killing penalties right now. But I just think that big body in front of Carter Hart and a aging Brian Elliott who can clear that crease out is incredibly, incredibly important. And I think that he's been licking his chops. He's been patient. He's been victimized by very bad luck and injury. And I just think that when he gets his NHL opportunity again, he is going to take it and run. And I don't think he's giving that shit back.
Yeah, I have to kind of agree on that point, but we have a log jam at defense, and it showed because I don't know if you saw Jamie Baskow. He posted on the first at our home opener that there was scouts from like half the NHL teams at the game. And
I'm sure.
I can tell you right now, they were not looking at the New Jersey Devils. They were probably looking and saying, look at that defensive logjam. Let's go and try and get one. So I see somebody on the move soon because you got to free up some space. You got Tyler Myers. You got Samuel Morin. There is an absurd amount of defensive talent. Thank you, Ron Hextall, for the one thing you did good. You built a stellar pipeline of players, but so did Alain Viano so did Chuck Fletcher, this year. He definitely added to that pipeline because they are all playing incredibly well at the college level. So we'll have Cam York coming up soon.
Cam York and Bobby Brink doing their thing.
Exactly. So it's crazy to think. I think the future's super, super bright in Philly, but unfortunately we will probably have to say goodbye to some fan favorites. But we will see about that. My guarantee of the week, well, the Flyers are coming into Connor country, not my end of the country, but to the West Coast. They got 3 games, and they are against really competitive and very much improved Western Canadian teams. I say we come out with 4 points, and we start to become the talk at the top of rankings as a team to look out for this year. I think we come out with 4 points in this Western road trip. And then
Listener of DOE. Me and Steve predicted 4 or 5 points as well.
I'm saying 4. I don't think we come out with a full-on 5, but I think we can definitely 5 or 6, but we definitely can come out with at least 4.
I like it.
So, yeah. So for those of you who made it to the end, thank you for listening. We appreciate you very much. Do not forget to rate and review this show, and do not say make it shorter because we're trying. We're trying, man. It's been too long.
This was an entertaining one this week, though.
Yeah, we did. Good topics.
One of the most entertaining parts of this and all of our segments is when we sit here and talk about food for 5 seconds. Just food, 215-794-FOOD, 215-794-3663. Treat yourself. Take it home. This and all of our segments here at ANYP are sponsored by the wonderful people over there at Just Food. Go visit our guy Asian Rob at either of their 2 in-store locations. One's at Del Val College in New Britain, PA. The other one is in Buckingham Green Shopping Center in Buckingham, Bucks County, PA. Again, that is Just Food, 215-794-FOOD, 215-794-3663. Treat yourself. Take it home.
And with that, we are going to close this out because speaking of food, I'm going to go get some breakfast. So, and I assume you're making pancakes for yourself and your dog, some extra pancakes.
Well, I have to, since he ate the ones that I made this morning, since we started recording right after I was done.
Shane, it was great, and we are definitely getting back to a weekly show whether it will be Scott or Shane or Scott and Shane, we will try and get all 3 of us on at some point as well. But do not forget to rate, review the show, follow us on Twitter at ANYP podcast, and you can follow me at Connor10. And Shane, what's yours?
You guys can follow me at Shane_Mead.
So perfect. Thank you for joining us, and we will see you next week on Crossing Borders.
A fighting man I used to be, revered and feared through Killarney. Now I'm back to hitching with the wind. But if Mickey Flynn should ever find me, I'll throw me caution behind me and square off on that son of a bitch again. He cracked open a rib or 2, he beat me solid through and through, danced a jig over my unconscious frame. I won me healthy sheriff fights, well lucky soul, still happy life since Mickey Flynn beat me dumb and